Hello, everyone. It's great to have you with us for PNB is Listening. I'm so pleased to talk with these two gentlemen, Dwight Rhoden and Desmond Richardson, great artists and inspirations with amazing careers. And we're going to focus on talking about the choreographer Ulysses Dove. And each of the three of us has had a connection to Ulysses during his lifetime, which sadly was cut way too short, but a voice in choreography and I think in our lives that was quite profound and lasting. So welcome to both of you. So pleased to have you with us.
Thank you.
Peter. Yeah.
I'm going to do the super quick humiliation of biography and then we'll dig right in. But starting with Desmond, who is an extraordinary dancer and teacher and inspiration. I tell you, I was reading your biography. It would take us about this whole conversation to list everything. But with so many companies from his work with Ailey, I also read that you started dancing because of a block party in Queens, New York when you were 10 years old. So bitten by the bug. Also great chapter in Frankfurt with William Forsythe, American Ballet Theater, Fosse. And one of the crowning achievements was one that you share with Dwight, which was the co-founder of Complexions Contemporary Dance Company. So a great company, which I'd love to dig into and talk about some of the philosophy behind that company. Desmond, when we talk about you, I know the work has been intense around Complexions. And Dwight, I read that you've choreographed over 100 ballets for Complexions. I'm not surprised. I know you guys tour constantly all over the world in great ways. And your career also at Ailey, at Dayton Contemporary Dance Company and Les Ballets Jazz de Montreal. One of the things that it says in your bio is that Complexions is about celebrating the beauty of our differences. Bravo. May the world sort of take your cue and follow it, because that's what we need. The differences are there and they're worth celebrating. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's work our way backwards. What is ahead for Complexions, and how can this audience that's listening to us follow you, find you, and discover you if they haven't already? Dwight, why don't you tell us?
Yeah, well, complexionsdance.org is our our website. You can find our touring schedule there. But since the pandemic, we're on our way back. Actually, Monday will be our first day back in the studio, this Monday, the 17th of May. And we have a short, small summer tour coming up. And then from there, we'll start the new season in September. And we do, every year we do our New York season. We're a New York-based company. And we'll be at the Joyce Theater for 2 weeks. We do 16 performances. It's one of those, killer runs, 16 shows in a row. Our company is about 15, 16 dancers, depending on the year. And we'll be there this year from November 15th through the 29th. So it's coming up. There's a lot going on. Touring, you name it.
And I would say pre-pandemic, those tickets were hard to come by. I know that's true all over the world, but the sellout rate was rapid and exciting. So it's probably just opening up, right? Yeah. Desmond,
it's good to be able to sell out, and especially in your home city.
Well, you earned it. So Desmond, how are the dancers doing? What's the mood of the company? How are they looking forward to Monday? I'm sure they are.
Yes, the dancers are looking forward to Monday. They are engaged and pushing forward, getting in shape. We've been having sporadic classes here and there. So that's been good for them to get in shape. So we're looking forward to just seeing them and just being back in the room with one another, because, obviously we're in a visceral art form, and that's very necessary to engage the energies of each other.
Yeah, I'm excited. I look forward to that run at the Joyce. And then is the tour ahead? Are you booking yet?
Yeah, the tours ahead will be, I believe we start off in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then to Dallas, and that will be like around June-ish, and and then Detroit,
Park City, Utah.
Yes, Park City, Utah, and then I believe Lake Placid will be the final. So yeah, and many of them are outdoors, so it's nice that they get a chance to be outdoors and things like that. So we're super excited.
It was about a decade ago, I guess you guys were on tour in Seattle, that we sort of took our resources and pulled them together, and we were staging Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven at the time, and we had your company in the studio with us, and we learned the ballet together. That happens so rarely in the world of dance, that companies actually enter the same space and learn the same material. And it was wonderfully lifting and inspiring for both groups, I think, just to have that opportunity, shared classes, shared rehearsals, and the two of you were staging the work for us, which was special, and I remember it well. Let's jump over to Ulysses, who was an extraordinary voice in the world of dance. He passed away at the age of 49, as so many New York artists did at the time, from AIDS. And my experience with him was really in those final years. I know you guys have seen Red Angels, which he created for the New York City Ballet that I was in, and also a work called Twilight. And Ulysses was literally passing away before our eyes in those rehearsals for Twilight. We knew he was dying. He knew he was dying. And the dance made him live, which was pretty extraordinary to witness. He said he was going to come to the premiere, and all medical sort of rationale said that he wasn't. And sure enough, he was there, and 2 weeks later, he died. And we gathered for this tremendous memorial tribute, which was intended just to be a celebration of his work, that Margaret Selby helped put together for the Love of Dove. And it ended up being a really moving experience.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing like that. That was, he was just extraordinary in terms of how he was able to bring out certain energies or challenge our norms, if you will, because I know for myself, even I was super nervous working with him, because I saw how he worked with other dancers and in other companies and things like that. And I was like, would I be able to rise to that information? But it was really very cathartic to be in the room with him. As you very well know, we all had that particular excitement to go to that place and just be exacting, but be within the moment, and understanding that, you have to share a lot of yourself and not just close off, where we just ace technical prowess, but there was something else that was really there it stays with you, and it stays with us for sure.
Yeah, you couldn't show up halfway for his rehearsal. That wasn't going to fly.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. The thing about Ulysses is, he had such a profound effect on me as a young guy, because I met Ulysses in my first company in my hometown, and I couldn't do anything yet. I wasn't ready to be in a Ulysses Dove ballet. At that time, I was just like pulling myself together. I started dancing so late. I started dancing when I was 18. I think he showed up when I was like 19, so like a year into my training. And he taught us something called, it was a floor bar class, but it was the Paris, he's called it the Paris opera version of the floor bar. And it was, just about placement and all those kinds of things. And he was so, I want to say, so strict in his focus about technique and line and form. And I remember he was trying to get us all to, like, how he did that split and you would pull through second to the other side. Well, I wasn't ready for that at that time. And I remember I had my hands around his neck and he was pulling me through, and I actually put my nails in the back of his neck and scratched his neck. And so the joke went on for years that, I scratched his neck trying to pull myself through a split. But Ulysses was just, he used to joke about that kind of stuff all the time, but he was just such a generous guy. Intense, though. Really intense.
Yeah, I think, our experiences with him, first, he didn't let us in at first. He waited for us to bring the respect to the process and to bring the commitment to the room. And pretty quickly, he only worked with 4 dancers. And my gosh, we walked in on day 1, like, thrilled to be called, honored by the occasion, wanting to be a sponge to everything he said. So it didn't take long. But boy, once you were in, you could laugh with him, you could celebrate with him. I've never seen a choreographer, except for maybe Jerome Robbins, get so much joy from, he'd put it out, you'd give it back and he would receive it. It was like,
Yeah.
he was the happiest audience member in that
Oh,
house.
he was. That's such a, I mean, I never even really thought of it like that, but you're so right. Remember, Des, like he would get so thrilled. There was a ballet we did called Episodes. And I
love Episodes.
Desmond and I did the first duet. And I don't know, we would run that first diagonal of turns and tours, I don't know, 100 times a day. Just that he would stop and make us go back, and he would be thrilled because, you know, even when it went well, he wanted something more. And it was wonderful to be received like that too, you know, to have a choreographer, because, you know, dancers aim to please, you know, we want to give the choreographer what they want. And wow, it was just, I remember when I got to the point where I could perform his work, I remember I couldn't wait to be able to give him what he wanted, you know, you know.
Exactly. I think that I have to concur that thought, Dwight, because when he asked, you know, us to be in the room for Episodes, and I was like, is he kidding me? Like, is this going to happen? I don't understand. Like, it's okay. Because I would always see the other works that he had done on the Ailey Company, which we were in at the time. And I thought I didn't have the maturity that was necessary for that, his work. Because those works were, the dancers at the time in the company were very keen on their theatricality, their presence, and knowing themselves. And if anything I have learned more so is that part is really trusting and owning who I am within the work. That's very important, and not try just to be as authentic as you can, because if it's not going to be authentic, then no one is going to be receiving it properly, right?
So I'm curious, because I never saw Ulysses dance. I don't know if either of you did, but I'm also curious about, like, was there a legend in the air at Ailey? Like, did people, I heard he was a beautiful, stunning dancer at Ailey and elsewhere. Did you see him dance, and what was the reputation like? Like when you got called to a Dove work, what did it mean? What did you know about him?
Well, being in the school, I came through the whole children's program and all of that stuff. And so, in hearing that he was in the company, I was like, wow. And then at that time, we were able to watch tapes and things like that. So I was able to watch him, see him in other works, like from Taylor, I think he was in. And I was like, wow, he has a particular way. There was something about his way, which was indicative of Alvin, because Alvin really chose individuals to be in the company. But his individuality was very, very clear, very, very clear. And it stuck out. It really just was very clear. And so his legacy, if you will, was very big for us students. We were like, whoa, he's coming in. And then the name Ulysses, I mean, what a name. So, and then Dove, that was like, this is an amazing name. So it's a fantastic name, right? For stage, oh, come on. But it was very interesting I saw his humanness as well. Being in the program, like I wasn't as a scholarship recipient, and then I was able to watch different rehearsals he was doing. Myself and my other fellow colleagues, we were just looking around like, oh my God, will we ever be able to do that one day? Because what he was actually asking of the dancers was not only their technical prowess, he wanted to see that, but he wanted to see this particular humanity. And he kept stressing that humanity, I don't feel you. It's not real. Well, you have to do something because I don't know what you're doing. But thank you so much for those turns. I'd really love to see that you land fifth, but you know, I don't understand why you can't.
Always taking the bar.
Always taking the bar.
Always.
Oh my gosh, right.
There was one piece, and I'm not sure, it's called The Time After the Time Before the Time After. I believe that was Lar Lubavitch.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We were instructed to watch this video, and Ulysses was performing. So I've only seen him on tape.
Yeah.
And there was like this regal elegance to him. He was just like the way he would use his neck, the way he would turn his head. He was, you know, he was really elegant. And I remember having, you know, making a big impression on me in terms of the way he looked, because he was this beautiful black man. Just, you know, he looked tall. To me, he looked like 8 feet tall. Of course, he wasn't 8 feet tall, but he looked huge, like so tall.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was in Dayton, when we were instructed that Ulysses was coming, he actually set the ballet Vespers at that time. That's the ballet that he set. And I sat and watched the entire process as a young dancer, not quite ready to be in it. And first of all, it was all women, but, and I watched him do that. And we knew he was coming. And, you know, our director, Geraldine Blunden, told us that no matter what, I mean, there was like a lot of anticipation and I think nerves, because we knew his standard was here.
Yeah.
And what he wanted to do with the dancers, no matter what, was going to be at a level. And she told us that she was very like old school. You're not really ready for it. Like she even told the girls.
He was right.
You know, but we all kind of like bucked up, and even though we weren't in it, the girls were, and they were magnificent. Magnificent.
Yeah, you didn't wonder if Ulysses had walked into the room. You didn't wonder if he'd entered the room. You knew.
Right.
It wasn't even in like a dictatorial way. It was a presence, like, we're going up, we're going to rise to this moment because the work begins now. And I actually loved that. It was clear, and I wanted to go where he wanted to take us.
You know, he talked about you. He talked about
all
you.
the time, yeah.
During the Red Angels process, we would go out to dinner every now and then. And he talked about, he was loving the four of you. And he was so impressed. Like, I remember, he was so excited.
Thank you so much. It was a great chapter, I think, for him. And I was going to ask you too, because with us, he was celebrating, you know, sort of this Balanchine aesthetic, these lines and these lengths and some of the technique and the clarity. Much of his work really dug into what you were referring to, Desmond, about the humanity, some of the struggle. I mean, PNB has now done Vespers and Series of Pleasures and Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven. But the themes of religion, I mean, the themes of light and dark, of course. I think for us, Serious Pleasures was about dark. It was about an underworld in New York that was drawing, thrilling, exciting, and then this constant balance of reverence and rising. Did he discuss themes? I mean, you guys were part of a creation process with Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven, correct? He wanted to work out the male duet using the two of you before he headed to Sweden to create the work. How much did he share with you at dinner or in the studio or what about the motivations of his work?
A lot, actually. I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dwight, is this when he was talking about this this ballet that he wanted to do, Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven. I don't even think it was that name or something like that. He was just talking about angels and that he was seeing them. They were coming his way, and we were like, "What?" It's okay. Like things were happening, and he had a particular idea that he wanted to just flesh out, and obviously we were constantly working together. So he was like, "I want to work with you guys. Let's work out some material." And but there was a connection because Dwight and I, we always had a particular dance connection. So he immediately was drawn to that because for the duet, it needed that sort of connection. And yeah, it was pretty magnificent to be a part of that, and then to see it come to fruition. I was like, oh my God, because it was just a little small thing that we did, but then to see how it was the dancers in Sweden
made it.
Yeah, were able to breathe life into it even more so with their it's almost a terrible word to say clinical, but he would say that I don't want not so much drama, please. It had to be just
absolute
pure. That's the word, absolute. Absolute pure. And that's one of the things that, as Dwight referenced, he was saying that Ulysses would say about you, which we all know, is your purity and the cleanliness of your dancing really matched what he wanted, right? In terms of dancers, yeah, you had flexibility and all of those things, all of that was happening. But I am relating that to, like, all of us share a particular Ulysses isms, if you will, lane, line, all of those things that he just liked with Dwight. I mean, he used you so much, you know, in Bad Blood and all of those things, the clarity of form, because he didn't want to cloud it with themes.
Yeah.
Just needed to see exactly what it was. And I was really honored to be a part of that, that happening at that moment.
You know what he also dealt with a lot was love and loss.
Yep.
He really dealt with loss, because I think even Episodes was about, what if we lived our life in the most authentic way every moment of the day, where there were no regrets? What if that was a way that we could actually live our lives? So Episodes was these series of moments, these episodes that would happen, and you would give everything you have, you would live it fully, and they would be over, and we would move to the next episode. And that really was his regret for, we lost Alvin very shortly there, right after, or he began that right after Alvin passed away. Mm-hmm. I'm terrible on timelines, but I know it's like all in that. And in that time, Peter, you're aware, we were losing so many of the men in the arts community, and particularly in ballet and in dance. We're losing these icons, and he was one that we eventually lost, but he was around at first when his friends were just not continuing, that they were dying, and I think he was very affected by that. And I think Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven was also about that reverence for the life of the people that he loved.
Yeah.
And I think that he always paid attention to that, and he was very spiritual in a way,
Well, I don't know the church he attended in South Carolina growing up, but it stayed with him, and the presence of mothers and grandmothers and and people who had passed. I mean, I think all the death that we were all sadly a part of an era, particularly in New York and other major cities like San Francisco, from AIDS. But it didn't have to be a finite death. I mean, if you believe that the presence was still there, and the afterlife, and it feels to me like Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven it looked at this other chapter, you were just in another room, you weren't gone.
Right.
I like the point where you said, Peter, is that I too, I'm from South Carolina, and that's one of the things that he said to me, growing up in the Baptist church and things like that, and having had this huge religious background in my family, and we related like that. Like, what are those things? What are those moments? If you touch someone, if you literally touch someone, are you just gonna, like, with the fingers clamped, like boop boop? But you literally have to touch, and you have to see, and you're just looking to look, or you're really looking. Those things, that's part of that humanity that I really loved. But that's part of what we learn in the church, in particular Baptist church, like when I grew up singing and in the choir and things like that. And so my grandmother was the choir directress, and she said, don't sing to the Lord to impress anybody. You have to express, So I was like, okay, stop trying to impress. So I felt that with him in all the ballets that we've seen him do, from Nightshade, which was a little bit darker in the company, to I See the Moon, and the Moon Sees Me. And these works were all pretty different, but had this element of serenity, presence, and a big point again is just humanity. Like, what is that part of humanity that we need to talk about, and people need to visit and understand it, and it provokes thought.
And humanity can be fake and it can be authentic. And you mentioned authenticity before. That he was looking for the other.
He was. And you know his vocabulary too, like his language, his movement. There were, and I say this affectionately so, and with the greatest amount of respect, there were few steps. He didn't use a lot of steps within one ballet. And he didn't need any more than he used, because those steps that he would use, the way he would put them together, the way that we as dancers would inhabit the work, it was quite enough to just knock. I mean, I don't know if you've ever sat in the audience of a Ulysses Dove work, which of course you have now. It's so impactful. And that to me is just magic, like for him. And, you know, I learned a lot as becoming a choreographer and because when I became a choreographer, did my first work in the school, Alvin was still alive, and Ulysses came and he was not happy. He was like, you need to dance. You don't need to choreograph. You have plenty of time for that. You know, he did. Remember Desmond? He was like, yeah, no. Go back to the studio.
Yeah, he was like, what are you doing? No. That's very nice, but Dwight, you need to be dancing. So.
Well, yeah, he wanted me to concentrate on it, and I took that as a compliment, as he, you know, that he wanted to keep working with me, and I wanted to certainly keep working with him because he was just genius. But he was just masterful, to be honest. He had such a majesty in the room too, you know.
And Dwight, you did what's the work? Bad Blood too, at Le Ballet Jazz de Montreal. What was that experience like too? Because I think that. We didn't even know that you had actually worked with him before Dwight came to the Ailey company.
Yeah. Have you seen Bad Blood, Peter?
No.
This is an intense. It's another one of these works where you have to be on and ready to go, because if you're not on, it's not going to work.
It was and 6 dancers.
Yeah, it's an opening. It opens with a solo in a spotlight in the middle of the stage by yourself. You're sitting on a bench, and it's all turns and all tours and it's all revolutions, and it's like one of these things. And I did it for the very first time in Australia with Le Ballet Jazz, and I don't know if I was 100% ready for it, but I absolutely loved it. And I remember I just messed up the text so bad because I was so nervous, and I remember it being so hard to like focus and spot and be on top of it in a spotlight. I had never done that before. I was young.
Yeah.
And I messed up the tech, and I was just in pieces. And I'll tell you, he let me have it in a way with no kind of like any kind of like bad thing, but it was so concise as to why I was screwing up.
Yeah.
That, you know, it just hurt my heart, because I just wanted to give him everything. And I remember that experience. And then I went out, I went home, and I worked on it. And the next day I showed up and we premiered it, and it went well. So I was so happy, you know, to give him what he wanted.
Yeah, that's a hard moment, Dwight. My God, I can almost see your eyes watering remembering it, because I'll bet it was really rough. But I also think he said, don't wallow in it, you know? I mean, get back on the horse, whatever the analogy, but he trusted you to be capable of it. He knew you could come back the next day and do it. And spending the whole night crying wasn't going to get you there. So it wasn't that nice. I'm sure it was rough. But listen, did he come back another time to see your work? Because you obviously had a great calling as a choreographer. You've had tremendous successes all over the world at this point with many companies, even beyond Complexions. Did Ulysses come back and see another work and sort of condone what you were doing?
He never really saw. I did a solo for Desmond called Growth, which is one of the solos he did early on. He did see that it was a studio performance, and he was standing in a white suit. I was so nervous. He was in the corner, and the whole school was there. Judith Jamison everybody was there. And here comes this white suit in the room, standing in the corner. And I had just left his rehearsal dance for him, you know. And I had made a solo for Desmond. I was like, oh my God, this man, you know, the person I look up to, he's going to see what I just did. And I didn't know if it was good or not, you know. And he was like, I said, you know, hello, Dove, after. And he's like, hello. He said, congratulations. It was very concise. Yeah. He didn't want to encourage me too much, I think, because he really wanted me to dance.
Yeah.
It was like that. It wasn't mean-spirited at all, because we went to have dinner after that, and we basically talked about episodes. because that's what we needed to talk about at that moment.
Yeah. Listen, a simple word from him could mean a whole volume. I mean, congratulations is a great encompassing of how he felt about that. So you should take it as a huge compliment. So
he was lovely, and you know, he was one, like, especially when he would soften up at dinner and be so loving, and you knew that he cared about you. You knew that he cared about the work, but he also was very, very much a human being. When he softened up, it was great. Outside the studio, I really enjoyed hanging out with him.
Yeah, because I think we all got along famously like that. He was into other languages. You know, he spoke French and a couple of different other ones. So he was worldly. He understood the world, and he knew that we were like that too, and wanted to express and understand. And he wanted to know more. You know, beyond just, what are you're a fantastic dancer. Okay, good. So who are you? What are you doing? And what do you want to do in your life? And those are the kind of conversations that we generally had with him. And those would always stay with me, because that was really profound, because I had that relationship with Alvin Ailey as a young person. He was like a father figure to me, but he would always ask, what else are you doing? I know you're in class. I got that. Yeah. Are you singing? Are you doing some artwork? Or what are you doing? What book did you read? I don't understand. You know, like, let's talk about that, because that kind of thing is really important for, you know, and even we ask that of our dancers now, like, be a full person. So when you're coming in the room, whomever is coming in the room to choreograph on you, they feel you, because there's that thing that's just coming off of you that it's your uniqueness, and there's never been a you. So we just need to understand who that is and who you are.
I love that, Desmond. I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't have the dinners, but he wasn't doing so well at the end, and he was always, like, we did Red Angels in Paris, and he was not going to miss it. And because I had kids, I flew a day or two later than the company just to be there in time for Red Angels. So I would go pick him up. I'd take him to the airport. We'd sit together on the flight over. So we got these sort of 10-hour stretches. And to be honest, those are the parts that I remember the most, was those conversations, those sharings. And, you know, what he brought to the studio was tremendous, but outside of the studio was even more valuable, because it was the complete person that he was investing in helping to grow.
Yeah.
And I almost think that was part of his information, almost like just for other things maybe he was creating, to listen and to hear if, you know, different people's lives connected to something that he was thinking about, maybe to work on and choreograph. So I think he loved that part of just like sitting and chatting and just being human, if you will, just like, let's talk, what's going on with you, you know? And besides just the tendu, you know, because we know that's going to be good. You're going to do 100 of them. So, and you're going to be on a susu with the thighs crossed. I don't want to see anything else. But, you know, that's how he really was. And I really understood that. And I stand in reverence of that even now, you know, that having had this career and imparting this information onto new dancers, you know, looking at their, you know, the dancers today are incredible. They're even more incredible. And it's nice to be able to give over this information that simplicity is best.
Mm-hmm.
Simplicity is, and there's something to be said about just doing a lengthened tendu. We're okay. We don't need so much. We don't need so much. We need you to have to be articulate, passionate for sure, but you know, it's all a part of that, and I really am so happy to be part of this. You know,
there's a one thing, you just brought one thing to mind, Desmond, is the one thing that he used to say, and I heard myself say it today in rehearsal, and it's a Ulysses Dove saying, which is make it legible. It needs to be legible.
Yeah.
I said it today in rehearsal, and I say it a lot because it's just part of me, you know. And I said, that's Ulysses right there. That's Ulysses. He says, it has to be legible. Don't muck it up with a whole lot of extra.
Yeah.
And when you just said simplicity, it just made sense to me.
Yeah. You guys, this has been such a pleasure, and I'm going to tell you that Desmond is off to pass on the legacy in about 5 minutes to a group of students that he has to teach. But I love about this profession that we do talk, we remember, we have these conversations, and we pass on what was valuable and great, and we keep evolving in these ways. So you guys are a key part of that beautiful chain of dance. So thank you for your contribution, and thank you for talking.
Thank you.
Peter. Thanks for asking.
Take care.